Hey everybody, John Fenn here, Church Without Walls International, CWOWI.org. We are a house church network. I strongly encourage you to go to our website, sign up for my weekly thoughts and my monthly newsletter. Those are the only places that we put information about where I'll be, our conferences, our Zoom meetings, retreats, things of that nature. So sign up CWOWI.org for the weekly thoughts and the monthly newsletters. All right, today I want to talk more about some things that the Lord spoke to me concerning faith and common sense and logic. And I'll talk in two areas, two main areas. One is in everyday life of work and business, and the other one area in health. So two things that the Lord spoke to me that has helped greatly and steered our lives so much. First off was back in 1984, 1985, I owned a pizza delivery restaurant. I was an unpaid associate pastor of a church, and I had pizza making experience. And so the Lord led me directly to open a pizza delivery place of our own. And so, it's the kind where you call in and within 30 minutes or so, you expect a pizza at your door. And when I was going into business, having been just in ministry before, but having come from a line of entrepreneurs and such, I was praying one day and the Lord spoke to me and he said this. He said, a business is in business to make money. If it's not, it's a ministry. And what those instructions were, a business is in business to make money. If it's not, it's a ministry. Those were instructions to run the business like a business, not a church. And it came in handy, and I disobeyed that. For in a short time, I had an assistant manager who, starting in January, when I promoted him to an assistant manager, he could not arrive at work on time. His food percentages, that is the amount of food we put on a pizza, were way too much and costing money in terms of the food, the extra food that was going out. And also in the fact that he would not show up on time. He was in charge of opening the store at 11 a.m. every day, 5 days a week. And very often I would go by to check and see how things are, and it's dark. There's the lights. We had 10 phone lines back then. We had 10 phone lines. The lines are going off. Just everybody's calling in because right at 11 o'clock, people are calling in their lunch orders and things, and he's nowhere to be seen. And I'd have to write him up. I'd have to put it in his record that he was late. I'd give him an oral warning. I'd warn him, say, you can't do that. I'd write it down. You can't do that. This happened through January. But here's the thing. I was witnessing to him. And I thought being a good Christian meant that I was patient with him and I was kind and I was witnessing to him. I certainly didn't want to offend the Lord. More so, I didn't want him to go to hell just because he wasn't accepting what I was saying. And so that happened January through all of September, and then in the first week of October, after saying to Barb once again, he's costing me $2,000 a month in estimated in food expenses, his labor, that he doesn't show up on time, and that he runs extra people when it's slow because he feels sorry for them, so he wants to keep extra people on the clock. It's costing me money in terms of wages. And Barb looked at me and she said, you're demonstrating that you love him more than you love us, meaning her and our children. I said, what do you mean? And she said, well, you sit here saying he's costing you $2,000 a month in food and labor, and you continue to keep him on the clock. And she said, that $2,000 a month, now going on for 10 months, would be money that would go to us and to our family and to me and to your children. So you're demonstrating that you're loving him more than you love us. That hit me to the core, that truth. It was like the Holy Spirit was with those words, and it just killed me, just hit me so hard. I fired him first thing the next morning, and he was angry with me, and I was witnessing to him all the time. But I learned that lesson that business is in business to make money. It's not a ministry. And this comes in handy years and years later. I'm the director of a Bible school here in Tulsa. And I have a student come to me complaining because she got fired for being a Christian, she said. I said, well, what did you do? She says, well, when I work, I'm just telling people about the Lord and what he's doing in my life and offer to pray for him and everything. And I said, they warned you? I said, yeah, they warned us and everything. But, we've got to witness for the Lord. I said, whoa. I said, you are hired in that business to work. So work as unto the Lord, but that doesn't mean that your words have to be witnessing for the Lord at all times. Paul wrote in Ephesians chapter 6, I think where it is, verses 5 through 9. In Ephesians 6, verses 5 through 9, he's talking to employers and employees. In that day, he said, bond or free, this applies to you. That they had slavery back then, organized slavery in the Roman Empire. And understand, God doesn't endorse slavery, but it was in the world. And so God had to deal with it, both in the Old Testament law and in the New Testament. It was just a fact of life. So, there are things in our lives we don't endorse, we don't believe in, but we have to deal with them. Same way God had to deal with Israel, same way he conducted warfare in the Old Testament, all those different things. He had to deal with Israel according to the times. So it's a similar thing here. So Paul writes that and he says, hey, just serve to the Lord. Be the witness by your attitude, by the way you conduct yourself at work, that you're working not with eye service as just in name only, and then when the boss is gone, you play around. He said, work as if you're working for the Lord. And that's the instruction. So I told this young student, I said, they had good grounds for firing you. They were right. They hired you to work, not to witness. And the same thing goes if you're, name tag or whatever, and Human Resources says don't put anything religious or political on your name tag, and you put a little "I love Jesus" or something like that. Don't do that. You're there to work, not to witness. You want to witness to your coworkers, do it on your own time. Do it on lunch hour if you're not clocked in. Do it after work, before work, whatever the case is. But when you're there to work. A business is in business to make money, period. All right, second area, health and that area. Back in that same time frame, actually in 1980, it was when our oldest son, Chris, was first diagnosed with cerebral palsy. That is, he had the cord around his neck in a slip knot when he was born, and it caused brain damage. He was born by emergency C-section, and has brain damage. So he's been mental 4 or 5 years old. He's never grown beyond that. But he loves the Lord, and he's just he's now a man's body, but he's a child mentally. But loves the Lord, loves people. But back then, when he was first diagnosed, the doctors recommended that he have physical therapy to help him move because he had weak trunk muscles and such. Occupational therapy because for his minor motor skills and everything else, picking up little things and things of that nature. And then speech therapies, and they recommended all 3 therapies. And I went to the Lord because it's like I'm believing the Lord, quote unquote, believing the Lord for his healing. And do the therapies work against my faith? Is it against my faith because I'm believing God for wholeness over here? And the Lord spoke to me one day and he said this. He said, the therapies work with me, not against me. And I asked him why. And he said, because they make muscles move as they should if they're whole. And he said they work with the body as it was designed in the processes for wholeness, for healing already in the body. He said the therapies work with healing, not against it. And that word, that the therapies work with me, not against me, is what he said at one point. The therapies work with me, not against me, in that they make the body move in ways it should, as it was designed to help the healing processes naturally in the body. When he said that, it just revolutionized everything. And I understood that we need to do what's right in the natural. Jesus said in Luke chapter 14 and verse 28, he said, when you sit down to build a tower, you count if you have the money, the resources, you count if you have enough to complete it. When you build a tower, you first count to see if you have enough to complete it. You don't start a project. In other words, there's planning involved. You have that project in faith. You've got a word from the Lord. You're in faith. You're responding to a revelation that you need to go in this direction, but you still use common sense. The other, next week I want to touch on this. I want to touch on the way the Lord speaks to us and such. So I hope this has been helpful here. And next week I'll talk a little bit more about how to do it. I've run out of time this morning. So next week I'll talk yet another area and how to accomplish this. How do we weigh this out? So hope this has been a blessing to you. God bless. John Fenn, CWOWI.org.